Hey, what's up YouTube? This your boy Entre Mike with an Entre short for entrepreneur, and I'm back with another video. And this video is going to be more informative, speaking on brokers and the carrier relationship and why you should probably take brokers a little more serious and realize that we're all working together at the end of the day. Enjoy the video. I hope you learned something today. Peace out. Okay, what's up guys? So you guys know this is a trucking channel where I'm running CDL Hotshot. I've been seeing a lot of videos speaking on not only carriers and taking cheap freight, the blame on who's taking cheap freight, brokers kind of being the person who we point the fingers at and say, these guys are stealing money from the trucking industry. So if you're new and you don't really know the terms as far as like a carrier, broker, and a shipper or customer relationship, a broker is just an agent for a shipper. If you're Walmart and you need a load book, the broker is going to be the person who finds a truck and negotiates a rate for that load. To break it down even more, let's say Kroger has a load of refrigerated goods that's going 300 miles. Broker may tell Kroger that, hey, if you want these loads delivered, you know, from Kroger to such and such going 300 miles, it's gonna take me about $1,000 to get that done. Depending on how that broker is, usually, you know, maybe they'll take that $1,000 that they give them and they'll contract that work out for $900 to a carrier, us, the truck drivers. Now there are situations where we don't necessarily know, or really every situation, we don't necessarily, unless it's a military load, we don't know how much brokers get paid for freight. But I'm not here to say that's none of our business because they bid on these loads just like we do. But I'm here to say you got to understand where brokers are coming from. And that this is a dog eat dog world. And the broker game is probably the hardest game to get into the trucking industry. This isn't a video to basically defend them, but reasons why you should work with them. And the first reason I feel like you should, and this is a personal experience with me that I have now, is because some brokers, or I want to say a lot of brokers that you don't see, post loads in email groups. So a lot of people see loads if you got Truck Stop, DAT 123 load board, or even Amazon Relay where it's no broker involved, where you see load on the load board, you have the option to call on a load if you see a good load paying decent, or you see a load that's not paying that well, you can negotiate the rate. That's called the spot market. So you bidding on loads that aren't yours, or you don't know the shipper, or you don't know the that's a spot market. But I know a lot of brokers who have email lists that the day before they post a load on the load board, they'll generate it out to, you know, who knows how many carriers they know that have done freight and done it successfully in a timely manner, who communicates real well, and they'll only send those loads out to those carriers. So it's really important because you don't know the power that a broker has, if that makes sense. You don't know, like me personally, I get it. I'm in a couple of email groups where freight coming out of Georgia, I see that freight coming through the email list before it hits the load board. And I'm gonna be honest, these couple of brokers that I'm speaking on, their loads never hit the load board. I must have gotten really lucky when they did hit the load board, but those loads do not pop on the load board no more. So if you have that relationship with that broker, you gotta understand you selling yourself as a business. You may only get one chance. I happen to see this guy twice, but I don't see him on the load board anymore. It's just through the email in their book. They're covered just like that. So I say that to say this. That broker that you may be having a hard time with, or not the best rate with for the day, because you did that load and you established that relationship with him, he may have more in it on the next load. Because every load that's paying low don't mean that the broker making more. Like if a load is going 300 miles, it doesn't mean a broker is at a set rate of what they're getting paid. They bid on them loads just like us. And if we're gonna put any blame on the brokers, I say it's because they're not asking their customers for enough. I've honestly said that a lot of times, but at the same time, the market for brokers fluctuates just like for carriers. Now, should they be negotiating higher for their bids for us more due to the fuel prices being up, due to the inflations on prices and us paying higher truck insurance, a higher truck note? And you gotta think, that's all really on new authorities. Our expenses are very high as new authorities and new carriers. Other people who got skin in the game, they've learned how to make their expenses lower over time. They've been knocking out their overhead. So we got to understand it's not the broker's fault on why our expenses are so high to operate. why not just work with them and see if they can work with us? And, you know, I don't want to say overcompensate for what works for another company, but work with us and what it takes to run our companies. Reason number 2 is because of communication. Communication is very key, because a lot of people don't understand when they're asking for proof of delivery, that's basically like a receipt in order for them to get get paid for that transaction, or to give payment for what was done. So if you don't know what a POD is, a proof of delivery, it's basically the bill of lading that you guys get when you pick up a load, or when you go to pick up your first load. They're gonna give you what's called a bill of lading. It's just a proof that you picked it up, and once you drop it off, they're gonna sign it, and it's the proof that you dropped it off. Simple as that. So it's basically like a receipt in order for you to get paid, or for them to get paid too. Because if the broker doesn't get that POD and they decide that, hey, maybe that load wasn't delivered, you know, sometimes communication is key to a lot of things, because it can just be a misunderstanding. But if they feel like you never dropped that load off, or you may have not sent them a POD in the past 48 hours, they can either deduct pay because of communication. They probably won't add you to an email list that I was talking about earlier. And they also may not fund your factoring company. And if that factoring company charged you, if that factoring company ended up compensating you for that load, but they weren't compensating for it, who do you think they're gonna come for to take it back? And reason number 3, which kind of points back to number 1, is because they do have a lot of power. Not only the power to, you know, do bad stuff, like, you know, they could put a freight guard on your authority, and every single time they look up your authority, they'll see notes about your company and how you were late and you dropped it off late and you don't send a POD. They can send all types of notes and messages for free. They don't have to explain why they're doing it, if that makes sense. Now, those could be more so shady brokers, but another reason that's more important than that is because sometimes these load boards, they go down. Like, I use Power DAT. If you guys want a free 30 days with that, check the link in the description. And sometimes load boards just have outages. They post a lot of loads on the load board, and maybe the tech side can't fix everything in a timely manner, and the load board's out for the day. Who are you gonna depend on for a load, depending on where you at? If I'm home, I know it's a couple of brokers I can email and see if they got anything available for today or the next day, because that's when they send them to me. So I just want you guys to keep your eye out for some brokers, especially the ones that's paying well. Those are usually the ones who probably got the groups. But regardless if they don't or not, if you're running freight locally, over the road, or regional, you're gonna run into some of these brokerage companies soon. A lot of these brokerage companies have a lot of freight, a lot of the same freight. So just watch out and be mindful that there may be a broker or two who can end up finding you something dedicated. I know a couple of guys, they got dedicated freight from a guy who they just got dispatched on through a brokerage company. They done ended up cutting out the broker now. Hey, if you guys made it to the end of the video, make sure to drop a comment and you guys let me know, why do you think we're getting cheap freight? And if it's not even cheap freight, what's your biggest concerns with brokers? Tell me about some previous history you've had with brokers. Let me know how you feel about brokers, because I don't feel like we necessarily have to have a toxic mindset to them. It's kind of what we got to deal with now. That's the only reason why I'm making this video, because if you're not in the trucking industry and you're learning about it, all you hear about is brokers are the negatives, but there are good brokers out there. Drop down a comment and let me know how you feel about brokers, and stay tuned for the next. Hey, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Entre Mike.
Daniel from the Truck Insurance channel, Truststream Insurance.
And today we're here to introduce the new lease on program that can help a lot of new people who are thinking about getting into the trucking industry but just don't know what to do just yet. It will consist of a lot of things.